I want to talk to you today about emotions and entities, and are they the same thing, and how do you tell the difference? How do you tell the difference when what you're experiencing is an overwhelming emotion and it's taking up all of your bandwidth, and it seems to be in control of you, because emotions have got that tendency. They can feel so big and so all-encompassing and so smothering that you wonder, where does this emotion get this level of say in my life? It's as if the emotion is running you. And doesn't that sound very much like an entity? Isn't that what you would expect an entity to do? An entity is going to be a foreign being who has control, power, jurisdiction, say over your life. And it seems that both can be a very malevolent force. So how do you tell the difference between an emotion and an entity? The answer is this: there's not much difference. In reality, that's the truth. There's not much difference. So what you've got to do is deal with both of them as if it doesn't matter. When you've got an emotion, what is it asking you to do? It's asking you to find yourself, to claim yourself back from it. So in other words, you've got anger, or you've got sadness, whatever your emotion is that's overwhelming you, that feels like it's bigger than you, that feels like it has so much say in your life, that emotion. The most empowering thing you can do is understand, I am not that emotion. I am the one experiencing that emotion, but I am not the emotion. In other words, it's not my identity. It can feel like it's entangled with me. It can feel like all of these things, but the truth is, I am not this emotion. And you can imagine, see the exact parallel if this was an entity you were dealing with. Oh, wait a minute, I'm not this entity. So what you're doing is, whether it's an emotion or whether it's an entity, you're going, there's a bit of a relief here for me as I remind myself, I am not this thing. Whatever it is, I'm not this thing. And this thing is here to be discharged. But in order to discharge this thing, be it the emotion or the entity, I must claim me more fully. And when I own me and I claim me and I am me, then I don't blur the lines and start thinking, whoa, I'm this crazy entity taking me on a tangent, making me act all crazy. Equally, whoa, I'm not this emotion making me act all crazy, taking me on a tangent that actually isn't my truth. Your truth, your personal truth, is only known to you, accessed by you, when you can claim your sovereignty, your space. That's an amazing starting block. Give yourself the daily practice of breathing into the fullness of your environment, meaning this, your space. This is your environment, your direct energetic space. Breathe into it and actually feel the space, not just of the physical body, but of the space around your body, and make that a habit. What does it feel like when I breathe into my local environment and I occupy my local environment and I fill it up? This filling yourself up with you is something I often refer to, and I've just given you some very practical tools that are going to help you to achieve something that might sound so big. And how do I start? Where do I start? Nothing that the universe asks you to do to step into your higher alignment is ever complicated. Ever. It just isn't. You can complicate it, but it is not complicated. It is the most simple work. When we talk about you got to do the inner work, you got to do the inner work, it's simple stuff. But the hard part in the simplicity is, can you keep it simple and not overcomplicate by overanalyzing and by applying logic and linearity to a world that is quantum? So come back with me. We are learning, okay, I'm not the entity, not the emotion. We are learning, I got to discharge these things. We're learning, I got to take my space, important. There's another step here, and that is, I've got to be responsible for me, because that emotion or the entity is there because there's something in you that you haven't owned, that you haven't taken responsibility for. I've often said this, and it's okay. It's something I am so happy to repeat, because if this were repeated to you every single day, you would still get it wrong most days. And here it is. Responsibility is not blame. Responsibility and blame are never, ever going to be the same. But we have mixed them up because society mixed them up, because they were presented as this convoluted mixed message. Still today, we talk about, oh, someone's got to take responsibility for this mess, as if taking responsibility, which is taking power in the situation, is somehow a negative or a bad thing that is blame inducing. It is not. Blame, one thing. Responsibility, another thing. So allow yourself these constant reminders. Blame and responsibility are not the same. Responsibility is your access point to your power. So what I'd love you to do is to breathe a moment of freedom here and go, I'm dropping all blame, and I'm breathing in my ability to respond, which is my response ability. My ability to rise up and meet life is my response ability. My ability to rise up and meet the scary emotion, or seemingly scary emotion, is my response ability. Equally, my ability to rise up and meet this entity that's been taking space that I didn't consciously give it is my response ability. I get to respond to this. I'm powerful enough to respond. As soon as you bring yourself into that authority, because that's what responsibility gives you, it gives you that power, the authority to take action. God, humanity needs this. God, humanity so needs this step. And you can see how it's been removed from the table for humanity by blackening, by tarnishing what humanity sees responsibility as. I'm glad I'm not responsible for that mess, but if only you were, because then you could heal it, then you could actually fix it, and in your own life you are responsible. So an emotion takes space because you haven't. An entity takes space because you haven't. When you occupy your field that is rightfully yours and you get powerful in that field because you're taking responsibility in that field, you have less and less room for entities, less and less room for emotions to act like entities. And this is why I said to you, they start blurring the lines between the two and looking like the same thing. This is why whenever we ignore something, what we're doing, gosh, this is important to understand. What we're doing when we ignore something is we are choosing to not be responsible for it. So when there's an emotion that's suppressed, for whatever reason, because it's traumatic. I mean, your reason might be a really good one. It might be a case of, look, there's a big scary emotion. It's traumatic. I can't go in there. I don't know how to deal with it. I needed to numb myself out at a particular point. All these things are fantastic. All these things make perfect sense. But when you perpetuate that ignoring of the emotion, you are consciously suppressing, consciously separating yourself from something. And now it's becoming an entity. That is why emotions and entities start looking so similar and behaving so similar, because you keep empowering the stuff you suppressed, because the stuff you suppressed are the places where you don't occupy because it feels too big and scary and that you're not powerful enough. So a denial of your power creates room for other things to have authority over you. And over time, the suppressed emotions congeal. Think of them as a congealed mass. And you keep making yourself answerable to the congealed mass of energy called depression, for example, or sadness, for example, or rage, whatever it might be. You keep making yourself answerable. Instead, let it answer to you. And that can only happen when you backtrack and replay what I said some minutes ago about being the powerful one who's able to respond. Just putting yourself there in the driver's seat makes you a totally new character in your world. It actually makes you the center of your world. And here's something really powerful I want to give you. Make yourself the center of your world. We've become conditioned to be afraid of being the center of our world. We learned very skewed ideas about this. The world doesn't revolve around you. Not everyone's going to dance to the beat of your drum. Those kinds of sayings were woven into our childhoods for the most part. So we grew up thinking the world revolves around everybody else because our parents acted that way, their parents acted that way, our bosses, our school teachers, our authorities act that way. Everyone's answerable to everybody else. So we assume, well, that's the way of good people. That's what I must do. I got to toe the line. I want to belong somewhere. So we try to learn the human traits that are in actuality the traits of the false matrix. And we don't realize that every time we're giving power away, we are creating space. We are creating invitations for entities or emotions to behave like entities and congeal to the point that they start taking on a life of their own. But when you bring your life into your field, imagine that. Most people live their life in lifelessness. Most people live their life in absenteeism. Most people live their life waiting for others to give them authority, signals, go-aheads, not realizing it's got to come from here, from the space inside of you. So can you see these simple steps? Because they're simple. The steps I'm giving you are simple. Can you see that these simple steps are exactly what it takes for you to live your life from the center of your being, from the seat of your soul? Do you do this because you've listened to one video on YouTube? No. I've got numerous videos where I speak about the same or similar things from very different angles. So you can hear me speak in numerous different videos here on YouTube. Go to my channel, dig into one of the playlists and just let them go. Just let yourself absorb information at this frequency, because this frequency gives you a goalpost that you want to meet yourself at. You don't come here to meet me, you come here to meet yourself. And as you elevate into this frequency, you begin to step into power. So that's one thing I can give you. Listen to a lot of these videos that are going to keep bringing you, calling you into higher truth. For those of you who are interested, you're so welcome to join my online community. And that's if you feel called. If you go, man, I want this journey of personal responsibility. Do you know that the very first member to my online community did that? She's still a member today. And this was what I said. I said, I'm opening an online community, and the only information I gave her was, it's where people are going to come to be responsible for themselves. And she put her hand up and she said, yeah, baby, that's me. I want that. She had no idea what we were going to do. She had no idea what she was going to pay, when we were going to meet, were there going to be replays available. There were no questions. There was just, something in her said, I know I need that. And today she is one of not just the legacy members, but a cornerstone of the online community, Lisa Line, and you know I'm talking about you. So thank you to everybody who in their own way is finding the simple truths. But please remember this, the simple truths are not easy. The simple truths are simple, but simple isn't always easy. The simple truths are things that are going to challenge you the most. You got to work on them. You got to be dedicated to them. So be with a friend, be with your journal, be with something, be with an online community, be with something that is going to help you step into the highest version of you. Because when that happens, less and less room for entities. Oh, if you're a member of my online community in the Plasma Live Call Library, do this. Type that word entity or entities into our search bar in the online community library, and it's going to bring up all of our entity clearings. Go do the clearings. That's going to support you endlessly. So I hope that this information helps you to see something super important about emotions, super important about entities. I've got another chapter to the story, but I'm going to save it for another video. From my heart all the way into yours. Lots and lots of love, everyone. I hope you felt that ray of love. Speak to me in the comment section. Bye bye for now.